Okay, so we're going to buzz through the next one real quickly. It's blogger relations. So, we've talked a lot about Ann Taylor example. Talk Value, Greenwatch has hired Talk Value, which is a social media marketing agency with expertise in influential blogger engagement relationships. And they've been hired to get the word out, create buzz about the Greenwatch new launch with influential green and fashion lifestyle bloggers. So essentially, there's a variety of tactics that Talk Value has proposed that Greenwatch has bought into. So what they first are going to do is seed with their network. They have a network of influential green and fashion lifestyle bloggers a set of watches. The bloggers are to wear the watch, post reviews, encourage comments and discussion with their readers. They're also able to reward readers. So Greenwatch is going to give each of the bloggers a set of watches to give out to their readers who engage the most with the discussion about Greenwatch and the new watch. Bloggers who generate the most dialogue will receive a behind-the-scenes experience, all-access pass at the corporate headquarters to see how the watch was made and to input into the new designs. Furthermore, given their relationships, Talk Value can guarantee a positive post with the most influential green blogger for a small digital ad buy with the blogger's site. For every click-through on the ad, Greenwatch is going to make a donation to the Environmental Defense Fund, which is very nice of them. And the Greenwatch marketing team does ask Talk Value about disclosure, and Talk Value team assures the Greenwatch team that the bloggers will disclose appropriately within the guidelines. Pass or fail? Show of hands real quick. Pass, fail? Fail? Okay. Why don't we go to the consideration
Yeah,
side?
I think we'll just jump into what the main issue here is, or what the main kind of takeaway we wanted to share with you. And that is this topic of consideration. We're not just speaking of a payment to a blogger or giving a blogger a free sample of the product or giving them a ticket to an event. Consideration includes a lot of things, including loaner products, free services, in-kind gifts, even special access privileges. So the idea of an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at a Greenwatch. I mean, all those kinds of things fall into the category of consideration. So when you're going out and thinking of these programs, just remember it's a pretty big catch-all. Secondly, the issue of the make a payment to the blogger and we can guarantee a positive review of the product. That's an issue for WOMA. Our code of ethics clearly mandates honesty of opinion. So when a brand is engaging with the consumer in these kinds of programs, it's got to be up to the consumer to create their own content and say whether or not they like the product. So that triggers a different issue than disclosure.
This is just so hard, and I mean, I agree that in a case like this, it's totally obvious, but we all know the reality is if a blogger gets paid anything, any consideration for a review of any kind, if they write a negative review, they're not going to be hired next time. They're not going to be given consideration by that agency the next time. It's so obvious that that's the case. So even if you're saying, write whatever you want, how in the world did you possibly really convey that truth?
I was just going to say, from a brand's perspective, the way that we're looking at it is, while they're not the same, if I think about USA Today, if USA Today writes something about McDonald's, which they frequently do, if I bring a reporter into the restaurants to check out our new McCafe product, it's up to that reporter, based off the information we share with him or her, to write the story. Sometimes it's going to be good. Sometimes it's not going to be so good. We hope it's going to be favorable, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say, because of that story, I'm not going to engage with this person anymore.
So I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
If a mommy blogger, you invited a mommy blogger to test chicken McNuggets, and they wrote, chicken McNuggets were the worst things I've ever had. They're disgusting. I could never recommend them to anyone. It would be very hard to engage that same.
It would be hard to justify engagement to our management team again, but my job is to say, okay, what happened with her experience to make that her feeling walking away, and honestly, yeah, there would be some I think egos I'd have to address with our management and leadership team, but at the same time, the way I'm looking at it, my responsibility would be to say, okay, engage her in a dialogue to say, okay, what happened with your experience? I wouldn't necessarily write her off immediately.
And for
It's
the
my
record,
personal
chicken
opinion.
McNuggets are delicious.
Actually, full disclosure, I have my kids are chicken.
You're fine.
You know, I think I want to add to that. The FTC's approach to this is, look, the consumer needs to get all the information that's there for them to be able to actually, judge the review by the blogger. So the blogger says, look, I was brought in by McDonald's to this event and given X, Y, Z, then the consumer knows that may affect the credibility of the review. Maybe that made for a positive review. And so, we're all smart people and we can make judgments about the content. So as long as you have the information, that's enough in the FTC's eyes.
Yeah, I met with the FTC twice about this very issue, and frankly, if you permit somebody to state their own honest opinion and you don't mandate that they say something positive, you're not off the hook. If you give somebody something in exchange for them taking an action, creating content, that needs to be disclosed, even if they are free to state their own honest opinion. And this is the issue that many people have with the guidelines. The issue is the FTC draws a distinction between a citizen journalist and a real journalist. And they've gotten a lot of guff for this. In Heather's example, that journalist wouldn't have to disclose that he or she was given special privileges. But if it were a mommy blogger, that would have to be disclosed. And that is the kind of germ of all of the the bulk of the criticism of the FTC on this very topic is that bifurcation of journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Same example, if a mommy blogger who McDonald's had some kind of engagement with and they sent something to allow her to have an experience, if she called you up and said, sorry, my cafe was correct, or the McNuggets or whatever, but I really like McDonald's, I like our relationship, so I'm going to choose to write nothing. If you say, okay, have you corrupted the process or, by even commenting on what she's about to do, and if you can't say anything good, keep your mouth shut, is that, have you violated the spirit of the moment?
Wow, you brought up a question. We're actually bringing some bloggers in next month, so you're fine. That's it's a very good question.
However, they could probably advance their own material interests. If I can't think of anything good to say. If I say nothing, maybe McDonald's will choose me again next time, versus I say give it a thumbs down.
I'll share with you what we did with some moms that we did bring in a couple of years ago. We said, your job is to be completely honest and we're giving you access. Your job is to be transparent and honest and write what you believe. So using that as an example, that's probably what I would say to her. And trust me, although the moms that did write about us within those 3-year time period that for the most part, 98%, it was all favorable. They did say within their post to our website that, hey, I wish McDonald's would consider this. I wish McDonald's would put carrots back into Happy Meals. So, or I would, didn't know this, but I wish this would happen. So we encouraged them to be honest, which they were. And I think that's me personal, what I would say. I don't know what you guys would have in terms of my responsibility as a brand, but my personal response would be, we'd hope that you'd publish something or write something about your experience. We hope it would be favorable. Apparently it wasn't, but I would encourage you to be honest, and maybe we can continue the conversation and have an engagement. But I don't know, if I would say okay and walk away. I mean, I can't force her to write something.
But saying
she doesn't-
nothing,
Well, no, I'm saying she has an advantage to not write something. Please,
but then
Right.
then
Right.
it's not an ad.
I can be honest, but I can be quiet.
Right.
But then it's not an ad, right? Essentially what the FTC is saying is that in certain circumstances, the consumer's voice is an advertisement. But if the consumer isn't expressing himself or herself, then there's no ad to reach anybody. So there would be nothing to disclose. Now, the next time that they were invited into a program, let's take their premise as factual. Let's say that in their silence, they requalified the next time around for the next campaign. If they were to write something, then it needs to be disclosed, right? So you would only need to disclose at the point of content creation. There would be nothing to disclose if you were being silent because there is no advertisement being created. There's no opportunity to deceive anybody in silence.
Because no one's reading it. It's an ethical, I think.
Join us next year for the entire WOMA session on ethics. We'll just have a full day. Unfortunately, we're running up against time here, but the team is here to take on some additional conversations, as well as before we get off, do you guys have the link where we have all of our disclosure information on the site?
I think it's woma.org /
There's like
ethics.
Ethics, yeah.
the whole ethics part of the site. So I would encourage everyone to take a look at that. As you can obviously see, this is an ongoing, living, breathing dialogue that WOMA's having, and the brands and the agencies, everyone's trying to sort and figure this out. So know this team is here and people behind it to tap and ask questions of. So closing comments from the three of you?
Thanks everyone for your participation. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.